that scrolling. You're not here by accident. This message, right here, right now, could change your life. Because everything you want is on the other side of one decision, to never settle again. So listen closely, not just once, but every single day. Until these words become your mindset, until your actions become unstoppable. Every day you wake up is another chance. A chance to rise, to grow, to fight for your dreams, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. The world isn't waiting for you. It's moving. And if you're not moving with it, you're falling behind. So ask yourself, who do I want to be? Because that answer is built not in one moment, but in every moment you choose to keep going. You are built for more. That's not just something nice to say, it's something you need to believe deep in your bones. Because I know what it feels like when no one believes in you, not even yourself. I wasn't always successful. In fact, I was rejected more times than I can count. When I was younger, I failed my university entrance exam, not once, but twice. I applied to dozens of jobs and got turned down by every single one. I still remember one of the lowest points, standing in line with 24 people to apply for a job at a fast food chain. Out of the 24, 23 were hired. I was the only one who wasn't. So you hear that and you think, how do you come back from something like that? But let me tell you something. Failure is not the end. Rejection is not a full stop. It's just a comma. It slows you down, but it doesn't define you. The problem is most people give up before the comma turns into a sentence. Most people let failure convince them that they are small. But you were built for more. And deep down, even when I had nothing, no money, no connections, no success, I still had this strange belief that I was meant to do something more. I didn't know what it would be. I just knew that if I gave up, I'd never find out. There were nights when I couldn't sleep, not because of work, but because of fear. Fear of being ordinary. Fear that all my effort will lead nowhere. But you know what I discovered? The people who succeed are not the smartest or the most talented. They're the ones who hold on just a little longer than everyone else. They're the ones who take the pain, the rejection, the loneliness, and they use it as fuel. I wasn't the best in my class. I didn't go to a fancy school. I didn't grow up with advantages. In fact, I barely knew how to use a computer in the beginning. But I had something else, resilience. And you have it too. You may not see it yet, but it's there. In every time you've gotten back up, in every time you've said, I'll try again, even when no one was clapping for you, the world will try to tell you that you need to look a certain way, speak a certain way, come from a certain background to be successful. I'm living proof that it's not true. The only thing you really need is belief. Belief that you are not here by accident. Belief that your future can be bigger than your past. Belief that your beginning doesn't determine your ending. There were moments I felt like giving up. Like maybe I was chasing something that would never happen. But those moments, they were the test. Not just of skill or intelligence, but of character. Everyone gets excited when things go well. But who are you when things fall apart? That's when you find out what you're made of. People often ask me what the secret is. There is no secret. There is only persistence. There is only the decision to keep moving forward, especially when it would be easier to quit. I started with nothing. No money, no business experience, no investors. Just a belief that the world needed something different and I could help build it. So if you're struggling right now, if you feel invisible, unqualified, behind, let me tell you, you're not alone. I've been there. And if I could find a way through it, so can you. But you have to decide right now that you won't shrink yourself to fit into the world's small expectations of you. Because you are built for more. You're not meant to blend in. You're meant to rise. You're meant to struggle, learn, grow, and keep going until the world has no choice but to take notice. It might take years. People might laugh at your dreams. You might even start laughing at them yourself. But don't stop. Don't you dare stop. When I look back, it wasn't the successes that changed me. It was the failures, the losses, the lonely nights. That's where the real growth happened. That's where the real strength was built. Every time I was knocked down, I realized the ground doesn't care if you stay there or not, but your future self does. Your purpose does. So get up. Not tomorrow, not next week. Success doesn't come from doing something once. It comes from doing it again and again, long after the excitement has worn off. That's what most people don't understand. They want quick wins, fast results, but success, real success, requires repetition. Not just when it feels good, not just when the world is watching, but every day, quietly, consistently. When I first started working on my ideas, no one believed in me. Not investors, not friends, sometimes not even my own team. I didn't have a business background. I didn't have money. I had to knock on doors that never opened. I remember traveling to Silicon Valley, pitching my ideas, only to be laughed at. I remember staring at blank faces when I tried to explain what I wanted to build. They didn't understand. And to be honest, I don't think I even fully understood back then. I just knew I had to keep going. I had to try. Then try again. Then again. There were days I repeated the same speech to 30 people and got rejected 30 times. I would go home exhausted, humiliated, and ask myself, am I wasting my life? But the next day I would wake up and do it all over again. Not because I loved rejection, but because I believed that if I kept showing up, something had to change. I just didn't know when. So I stayed in the game. Most people give up not because they're weak, but because they expect it to happen fast. They do something once, maybe twice, and when it doesn't work, they quit. But what if success was just on the other side of one more repetition? What if you were 5 more tries away from the breakthrough that changes everything? You never know unless you stay long enough to find out. And when we finally started building our company, nothing was smooth. In fact, we failed more than we succeeded. Our systems would crash. Our partners would walk away. Our growth was slower than others. People compared us to companies that had 100 times our resources and told us we would never make it. But we kept going. We kept showing up. We kept repeating what worked over and over until it became strong enough to scale. Do you know how many times I had to give the same speech to my team when they lost hope? How many times I told them, we are not here to be the biggest today. We are here to survive long enough to become strong tomorrow. I didn't have all the answers, but I had belief. And repetition was the only tool I had to turn belief into reality. Every time we repeated a process, we learned. Every time we failed, we adjusted. Every presentation we made, every sleepless night we spent fixing problems, we were laying bricks. It didn't feel like success. It felt like chaos. But looking back, the repetition was shaping everything. If you want success, you have to stop chasing the feeling of progress and start chasing the habit of progress. Repetition builds that habit. It's not exciting. It's not glamorous, but it's real. The people who win in life are not the ones who do everything. They're the ones who do a few things again and again until mastery kicks in. Repetition creates momentum, and momentum creates belief. Even when no one else believes in you, when you wake up every morning and take one step forward, it sends a message to your future. I'm coming. And eventually your future starts responding. The doors start opening. The world starts listening. But first, you have to earn it. And you earn it by repeating the right things until the world has no choice but to pay attention. When we started growing, people thought we were lucky. They didn't see the years of rejection. They didn't see the early mornings and long nights. They didn't see the times we repeated failed ideas until we found the one that worked. But that's how success looks from the outside. Sudden, effortless. From the inside, it's a grind, it's repetition. And still, to this day, I live by the same principle. No matter how big we become, I never forget what got us here. Showing up again and again. Honoring the process, not chasing the spotlight. Listening to rejection without absorbing it. Doing what others stop doing after it gets boring. Repetition isn't failure, it's training. Every time you show up, you're getting sharper. Every time you try again, you're getting closer. And one day, the world that ignore you will ask how you did it. And you'll smile, because you'll know. People often think talent is everything. That if you're smart enough, gifted enough, success will just come to you. But I've seen the opposite. I've seen talented people waste their potential because they never learned how to be consistent. They waited for motivation. They relied on inspiration. But inspiration doesn't show up every day. Discipline does. When I look back on my life, I don't see a person who was the smartest in the room. I wasn't good at math. I failed my entrance exams more than once. Even when I finally got into university, I wasn't the top student. My English wasn't perfect. My background wasn't impressive. In fact, everything about my early life could have been an excuse to stay small, to stay quiet, to stay ordinary. But I decided I wouldn't let that happen. What I did have was discipline. And discipline meant doing what needed to be done even when I didn't feel like it, even when the odds were stacked against me. I was willing to show up when others gave up. I was willing to keep learning when it was boring. I was willing to stick to the vision when there was no evidence that it would ever work. I remember in the early days when I first started gathering people to build a team, most of them didn't even understand what we were doing. They weren't excited. They weren't confident. They were uncertain. And honestly, so was I. I had no business experience, no funding. We were just a small group of people in a small room with a big idea and no roadmap. But every day I kept showing up with discipline, not because I felt powerful, but because I believed that if I stopped, it would all fall apart. Talent might help you get started, but only discipline will keep you moving when everything gets difficult. And believe me, it will get difficult. There were times I couldn't pay salaries on time. Times when competitors with more money, more resources, more people entered the market and almost crushed us. I saw companies around us growing faster, expanding more rapidly, and I felt left behind. But what saved us was not raw ability. It was the discipline to stay focused on what we believed in. There was a period where we worked 16 to 18 hours a day, every day for months. No big wins. No recognition. Just slow, painful progress. We faced problems we didn't know how to solve. We made decisions that didn't always work. But we learned, we adjusted, and we kept going. That's discipline. Not perfection, not brilliance, just consistency in the face of chaos. You can be talented and still lose if you're not consistent. I've seen brilliant minds quit too early. I've seen skilled people give up after one setback. But discipline teaches you something talent can't. It teaches you how to endure, how to keep showing up even when it's not working yet, how to stay humble enough to learn and hungry enough to keep pushing. Every single day I had to remind myself that progress doesn't come from what you do once, it comes from what you do every day, especially when no one is watching. That's what separates those who make it from those who only dream. When we finally started to see success, people thought it happened overnight. They saw the headlines, they saw the growth, but they didn't see the years of quiet discipline behind it. They didn't see the sacrifices. They didn't see the days we worked through sickness, through disappointment, through doubt. But we did. And that's what made the difference. If you're waiting to feel ready, you'll be waiting forever. If you're relying on talent alone, you'll lose to someone who is willing to outwork you. But if you have discipline, you can rise from anywhere. You can build something meaningful from nothing. You can win. I've learned that discipline isn't just a skill, it's a decision, a daily one. You don't have to be the smartest, the fastest, or the most connected. You just have to decide, I will not quit. I will not wait for the perfect moment. I will do the work even when I'm tired, even when I'm uncertain, even when nobody claps. And when you do that long enough, you become dangerous. Not because of your talent, but because of your consistency. The world starts to respect that. Success starts to follow that. People start to believe in you, not because of what you say, but because of what you show. Day after day after day. Discipline beats talent when talent doesn't show up. When you're going through a hard time, it's easy to think something is wrong. That maybe you're on the wrong path, or maybe you're not good enough. But I've learned that struggle is not the enemy, it's the teacher. Every time I went through pain, failure, or rejection, I was being trained for what was coming next. I didn't know it then, but now I can see it clearly. In the early days, I thought success would be about ideas or connections. I had neither. I started with no money, no experience, and no support from the business world. In fact, I was turned down for almost everything. I remember applying to so many jobs, dozens and dozens. I was rejected from jobs that most people would call easy. Even after I started building a company, people didn't take us seriously. They laughed at us, investors walked away, friends doubted us, and deep down, sometimes I doubted myself too. But every one of those moments became a lesson. When someone says no, you learn how to explain yourself better. When something breaks, you learn how to build it stronger. When you lose, you learn how to focus. Struggle sharpens you, if you let it. And that's the key. You have to stop seeing your pain as punishment and start seeing it as preparation. When we were starting out, I remember there were weeks we couldn't pay our team properly. Some of the people I loved working with left. They didn't believe the company would survive. We were working from a small apartment, barely enough furniture. Nothing felt professional. But what I had, was persistence. And I began to understand. The struggle was building something in me that success never could. It was building patience, humility, and resilience. It was shaping my character. You think you want success quickly, but if it comes too early, it will destroy you. You won't be ready for it. The struggle is there to stretch you, to increase your capacity, to make you ready for the responsibility of what you're asking for. You don't grow during the applause. You grow in the silence. In the nights when no one sees what you're going through. In the days when you show up anyway, even though nothing seems to be changing. There was a time I flew to meet with an investor full of hope. I believed this meeting could change everything for our company. I had prepared so much. I gave the pitch, shared the vision, laid out the numbers, and at the end he simply said, "You're not the kind of person who can build this." It hurt. Not just because he said no, but because he looked at me and judged that I wasn't enough. But now I understand that rejection wasn't a wall, it was a mirror. It showed me how much more I needed to grow. It taught me how to be mentally tougher, emotionally clearer, and more determined. That kind of strength doesn't come from talent. It comes from being tested. Everyone wants to be strong, but no one wants the struggle that creates strength. I had to learn to lead people when I didn't feel like a leader. I had to speak with confidence when inside I wasn't sure we'd survive another quarter. But every time I pushed through those moments, I got better. I didn't become a leader when we succeeded. I became a leader when we were losing. The struggle doesn't mean you're failing. It means you've been trained. It means life is asking you, how bad do you want it? Are you going to stop now? Or are you going to rise through this? Because if you quit when it gets hard, you'll never see what was on the other side. And I promise you, it's worth it. Some of the strongest people I've met are not the ones who had the best start. They're the ones who faced the worst setbacks and kept going. They are the ones who stayed when it got hard, who learned how to breathe in uncertainty, who chose to grow instead of escape. That's what real strength looks like. Not shiny, not perfect, just unbreakable. So when you're struggling, don't curse it. Pay attention. Ask yourself, what is this moment trying to teach me? Because life will repeat the lesson until you're ready for the next level. The faster you learn, the faster you grow. That's how it works. You might feel like you're stuck, like the pain is pointless, but it's not. It's building something in you, something powerful, something no one can take away. Not money, not success, not fame. It's the strength to endure. And that strength will carry you further than anything else ever could. Your struggles are not in the way. We often get stuck waiting for the perfect moment, perfect timing, perfect skills, perfect plan. But life doesn't work like that. If you wait for perfection, you'll be waiting your whole life. I've learned that progress is always more powerful than perfection. Success comes from movement, not from flawless conditions. It comes from starting where you are with what you have and improving as you go. When I first had the idea to start a business, I had no experience, no connections, no confidence. I didn't grow up with money or with access to powerful people. I had no reputation, no track record. Honestly, I didn't even know how the internet worked in detail. I just knew it had potential. People laughed at me when I talk about building something online. They said, you don't even know technology. And they were right. But what they didn't understand was that I wasn't trying to be perfect. I was trying to make progress. I was trying to learn. I was trying to move forward. In the beginning, everything we did looked amateur. Our presentations weren't polished. Our strategy wasn't clear. We made mistakes every day. We launched things that didn't work. We guessed. We failed. But every single time we failed, we learned. Every wrong move taught us something about how to make a better one. And over time, those small steps started turning into real results. Too many people are waiting to be perfect before they take action. They want to speak flawless English before they give a speech. They want the perfect business plan before they open their shop. They want all the knowledge before they take the first step. But that's not how success works. You don't start perfect. You grow into better through repetition, trial, and humility. You start by doing it badly. And then you do it again just a little better. And again. That's progress. When we were trying to raise money, I had to pitch to many investors. Some didn't even let me finish. Some said no before I even spoke. Others said, you don't look like a CEO. It would have been easy to take that personally and stop. But I didn't care about being perfect. I cared about getting better. I refined my pitch after every meeting. I studied how people reacted. I changed my approach. Not perfectly, just better than last time. And eventually someone said yes. And that's what momentum looks like. Not a perfect win out of nowhere, but progress built step by step, quietly, behind the scenes. People see the end result and call it luck, but they don't see the hundreds of imperfect actions that made it possible. There were times when I questioned myself, when I felt I wasn't enough. When I saw other companies growing faster, hiring better people, getting more press, I could have compared and gotten discouraged. I could have tried to look perfect and failed trying. But I reminded myself, we are not here to impress, we are here to improve. Our path was different, our pace was different, but we were moving forward. And that's all that mattered. The pressure to be perfect kills more dreams than failure ever will. Perfection makes people afraid to start. It convinces them to stay silent. It traps them in their head, rehearsing instead of acting. I've seen brilliant people stay stuck for years because they were waiting for the right time. But there is no right time. There is only now. And the sooner you start, the sooner you grow. I used to believe that I had to know everything to lead, But the truth is, leadership is not about having all the answers. It's about being willing to take the first step and then the next. It's about making progress when things are uncertain. It's about being wrong and learning quickly. Every time I admitted I didn't know something, I made room to learn. That humility, that willingness to be imperfect made me better. So don't let perfection become your prison. Don't wait until everything looks right. It won't. You'll never feel completely ready. No one does. But if you take one step today and another tomorrow, soon you look back and realize how far you've come. Not because you were perfect, but because you never stopped moving. Perfection is an illusion, but progress is real. It's messy, it's uncomfortable, but it moves you forward. And that's what matters. You don't need to be perfect to begin. Just brave enough to begin at all. When you're going through hard times, it's easy to get lost in the moment. You look at the bills, the failures, the missed opportunities, and you start to feel small. You start to believe that maybe this is all life has to offer. But what changed everything for me was learning to think beyond the moment. I began to think about the future version of myself, the one I hadn't met yet. The one who could stand on stages, lead people, build something meaningful. That future version was waiting. And he was counting on me not to give up. In the early years, I didn't look like someone who would ever be successful. I had no money, no experience, and no powerful connections. I failed exams, got rejected from jobs, and heard no more than anyone wants to hear in a lifetime. I remember applying to dozens of positions and getting rejected from almost all of them, even jobs that didn't require much. I would walk home sometimes thinking, maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe this is just how my life will be. But somewhere inside, a voice told me, keep going. Someone is counting on you. Even if it's just the person you'll become later. I didn't know exactly what that future looked like, but I knew I didn't want to look back someday and say, I stopped because I was tired, or I gave up because it was hard. I wanted to look back and know I gave everything I had, even when the odds were against me. There were days in the early stages of our company when I felt completely alone. We were struggling, people doubted us, our resources were limited, sometimes even our team questioned whether we would survive. I had to keep a brave face even when I was scared inside. And during those times, I would imagine my future self, stronger, wiser, standing on the other side of the struggle. I knew that if I wanted to meet him, I had to keep going. I had to keep building, learning, leading. There's something powerful about knowing that every decision you make today is creating your future. Every time you wake up early to work on your dream, every time you say no to excuses, every time you choose growth over comfort, you're building that version of yourself. And that version will either thank you. I've met so many people say, I wish I started 5 years ago. And I always tell them, start now so you don't say the same thing 5 years from today. The future comes either way. Whether you work or waste time, the days will still pass. But if you stay disciplined, if you stay focused, the version of you 5 years from now will have a life that was worth the fight. When I was standing in front of investors who didn't believe in me, I wanted to walk out. When our plans failed, I wanted to stop. When we were broke and the path was uncertain, I had every reason to quit. But I remembered the man I wanted to be, he wouldn't quit. He would push through. He would figure it out. And if I wanted to become him, I had to act like him even when it felt impossible. You don't need to have everything figured out today. You just need to be loyal to your future. Loyal enough to work when you're tired. Loyal enough to show up when no one's watching. Loyal enough to do it wrong and try again until it's right. That kind of loyalty changes everything. Every time I failed, I had two choices, shrink or stretch. And I chose to stretch. I chose to ask, what does my future self need from me right now? And most of the time, the answer was simple. Keep going. Keep learning. Keep showing up. You may not see the results today. You may not even feel like anything is working. But trust me, your future is being shaped in these exact moments. The hard days, the quiet days, the days when no one is cheering for you. Those are the days that count the most, because when you keep going through those days, you're telling your future, I've got your back. And one day, when the people around you finally see your success, they'll call it destiny, they'll call it luck, but you'll know the truth, it was you. It was the part of you that refused to quit, the part that fought when it wasn't easy, the part that made decisions not based on how you felt, but on who you were becoming. You're not just working for today. You're working for the version of yourself who's about to do something incredible. That version is waiting for you to step up. So don't let them down. Don't break the promise, because one day you're going to meet the person you've been building all this time. Make sure they're proud.